What's up, guys? In this video I'm going to be going over if Maxpeedingrods Coilovers are really as bad as you think. I've had them on my Lexus LS400 right here for about a couple months, maybe 1,000 miles, and I've also put them on my friend's Honda Accord, and I've ridden in both of those cars quite a bit and put them through their paces. So we are going just to go over the pros and cons of putting Maxpeedingrods Coilovers on your car, and if they are really as bad as everyone says. Of course, everybody knows how cheap Maxpeedingrods Coilovers are. You can get them on eBay or their website for cheaper than any other coilover brand, and that kind of raises some questions on the quality and if they are safe or not, and their questionable performance too. So I've had them on my Lexus LS400. They're both, I think the rears are definitely maxed out. The fronts could go a little bit lower, I think. But this car is heavy. It is a boat. And the first downside to the Maxpeedingrods Coilovers, at least for the LS400, is that they are way too soft. The spring rates are way too low. They're pretty bad on how, I mean, I guess it would make it more comfortable if you don't want to lower the car a lot, but if you're getting coilovers, chances are you want to lower it. And the LS400 coilovers are way too soft. Just turning with this car and hitting bumps and stuff, for any sort of performance driving, drifting, whatnot, they are really soft. The wheels will rub if you turn really hard or hit bumps. The bottom will scrape. So I definitely think that these need to be a lot stiffer to be, I don't know if I would say worth the money. I would say they are probably worth the money because they're so cheap and that they haven't broken. I was a little surprised with the quality actually whenever I unboxed these for the first time. I mean, they're not like, they don't feel like dirt cheap. They feel like they could withstand being on a car and daily driving it. And their customer service is pretty decent too, because when we put coilovers on my friend Jonathan's Honda Accord, the fronts actually came leaking oil, and they sent us out 2 new ones free of cost. So their customer service is pretty decent, so that's a plus. But as far as being worth the money, I would say they are only worth the money if you have a dirt cheap car and you want to lower it. If you have a car that you're actually trying to make a decent build with, or do any sort of performance driving, or anything that's not just a strict dirt cheap budget build, then they will work. But if it's anything more than that, then I would not recommend them. This car is $500, so I don't mind putting these coilovers on it at all. They got it low, it looks good, that's really all I cared about. It doesn't ride terrible, like I daily drive it, no issue, and it's not uncomfortable or anything. I just wish that they were stiffer. And I got the ones with the dampening adjustment. I noticed maybe a little bit of a difference. I can't really tell if it makes a difference. On my friend John's Honda Accord that we put them on, we could tell a difference just by jumping. If we put on the softest setting, it was definitely way softer, and it would hit the ground if you jumped on it. And if you put it all the way on the stiffest setting, you could definitely tell that it stiffened it up. So the adjustable dampening, it's probably, I mean, obviously it's not good enough for like performance driving or anything like that, but it does make a difference if you do want adjustable coilovers for dirt cheap. And these, I have the preload, like I have the preload really high on these, and they're still too soft, just because this car is so heavy. You can tell that they don't really do the research when making the coilovers for the car, because if I did not put a lot of preload on these, they would be like, they'd be way too soft. It would probably, I don't even know if it'd be drivable. You'd hit bumps and the wheel would go all the way up and rub on the inside. So as far as that goes, I don't think they did a great job with this car, but also lighter cars may be different, because I've only tried them on a Honda Accord and the Lexus LS400. On the Honda Accord I put them on, we absolutely slammed that thing. We took the lock collars off, and it was like, it was laying on the ground. It scraped and threw sparks everywhere, and they definitely did the job for that. So if you just want to go like extremely low, like frame banging low, then they will do the job, because you really don't need it to ride good anyways for that. You just need it to get low, and you can kind of modify them and cut them, take out the lock collars, and you won't really care, because they're cheap coilovers, so they are good. They are good for that. And you could even swap out the springs if you really care that much, but they're so cheap I wouldn't even bother with that. Another thing is the packaging is pretty terrible. Both of the sets that I got came in just a plain black box that said Maxpeedingrods on it, whatever. But it was pretty torn up, and you open it up and it's pretty much just 4 coilovers in the box with maybe like a little bit of padding and then some cardboard dividers, but you could tell that those things are flying around all in there, and the packaging definitely could be improved. So that could definitely cause issues, breaking them in packaging, shipping and whatnot. But my overall thoughts, I was impressed with them for the price. If I had like a super cheap car like this one, which was 500 bucks, if I had a cheap car, I would buy them again. I wouldn't really want to put expensive coilovers on that car. So for a cheap build, they do the job. Are they as bad as people say? I would yes and no, because they are pretty bad, but for the price, the quality is pretty much what you would expect, if not a little bit better than what you'd expect for the price point. And I definitely would buy another set again if I had a super cheap car like this Lexus here. Like if you just get a really good deal on a car, like $1,000 or under, so just like a cheap budget build, they do the job. They get it low. They might make it handle a little bit better, just lowering the center of gravity and stiffening it up a little bit. But even for daily driving, they are pretty bouncy too. Whenever I hit a bump, you can see like the nose of the car go up and down like that. So they definitely don't ride good, but pretty much all they're good for is going low on a cheap car. If you want to sum it up that way, that's what they're good for. If you want to go low on a cheap car, or if you just don't care about putting bad coilovers on whatever car you have, then they're the right thing for you. But if you want something that's actually worth it as far as daily driving, track driving, whatever goes, you probably want to look at something that is a little bit better than this. Maybe for like a really cheap budget drift car, they could be decent, if just to get it low and stiffen it up a little bit. But if you're really trying to make like any build that has any sort of quality whatsoever, I would try to step up, get a better coilover. For this car, this is just a cheap car I was building for a few months, and now I ended up having to sell it, so I'm not too worried about the coilovers. They're a little bit bouncy. For daily driving, I wouldn't say it's unbearable, because these aren't super stiff. They make noise, you know. They're cheap coilovers. They kind of have some creaks and clunks. Some of the bolts have come loose. I put red thread locker on them and tightened them with an impact, and they've still come loose. So I don't really know what to tell you as far as that goes. But you know, the fronts creak a little bit when they bounce. You can kind of hear like the hydraulic type noise, and it is pretty bouncy. But that also is because I have the preload maxed out, because these were too soft. So I would not count on them being designed properly for whatever car you put them on. But for the money, all in all, I would say it's worth it, because the fact that you can get coilovers for a car that cheap is pretty impressive, and that they actually are good enough to drive on. I would not push a car's limits at all with these on, but if you need something that just does the job, I'd recommend them. Anything more than that, I would say pass. But that is pretty much it for this video. Please leave a like and subscribe, and follow me on Instagram at NickJoeNapp, and I will see you in the next video.